July 4th, 2006 at 248 White Plains Road, Trimble, Connecticut. And we're interviewing Joseph Dinello, who is a World War II veteran. He was born on May 8th in 1917. And the interviewer is Michael Ramade, and the cameraman is also Michael Ramade, my father. He was in the Army in World War II, and he was a corporal, and he served in Europe. You were drafted, right?
Right.
Yeah. How did you feel when you first got the letter?
Well, it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad being drafted. You get used to it. The training was hard, but you got used to it. And I was in the infantry, so the training was very hard, and you didn't have too much time for yourself because you had to learn all the different weapons. In my company, we had the machine guns and the mortars, but we had to learn how to shoot everything. The grenades, the bazooka, we trained with everything. But my specialty was the machine guns and the mortars. And we trained for 17 weeks. After 17 weeks, we went to Europe. We went to England, and then from England we went to France, northern France. From northern France, we went all through northern France, then we went to Central Europe, Central Germany. And then Battle of the Bulge, we went to Luxembourg. They called that the Ardennes, the Battle of the Bulge. And after that, we crossed the Rhine River. After we crossed the Rhine River, we went through Austria, and we wound up in Czechoslovakia. When we met the Russian soldiers, they were coming towards us, and we were going towards them. And we met them. And after that, then the war ended when I was in Czechoslovakia. We liberated a concentration camp also in Czechoslovakia. It was 500 Jewish women. 490 of them were dead. There's only 10 living Jewish women. It was awful. All the dead bodies all over the ground. Nobody picked them up. When the war ended there, they decided to send me and a group of our men to make the invasion. They shipped us, put us on ships, sent us all the way back to northern France, on trains all the way to northern France. Northern France, they shipped us home, and we went to Camp Campbell, Kentucky, where all the paratroopers were. And we were training to make the invasion of Japan. Then they threw the 2 bombs, atomic bombs, the war ended, and I decided to leave the Army. At the time I was acting sergeant, training people how to the machine gun and use the mortars. But once they ended the war, I decided to come home. If we ever made that invasion, they predicted 1 million casualties. So it was amazing that the atomic bomb made them give up, which most likely they would have had to give up. But a good thing they threw the bomb down. Is that all you want, Mike?
Yeah, for that question. So was it a tough decision to decide to leave the Army? Like, were you thinking about making a career out of it, or?
No. You know why? Because I had a family, Mike. Yeah. I was the head of the family. See, I had to come home. My mother was a widow, so being the head of the family, while I was in there, they took me, even though I had some independence. Being the head of the family. Yeah. I would have got drafted sooner because of me being the head of the family. My younger brother didn't have a steady job, so they took him instead of me. Otherwise, I would have won in 1942. They weren't going to take me 42. But because had the family take my brother at that time.
Tell me a little bit about England. What was it like there?
Huh?
England.
Yeah, well, we stayed, well, England was all right.
Yeah.
But I didn't stay there too long. But England was a good country, and there's a friendly neighbor, was a friendly nation. If we didn't have England there, we wouldn't have no place to make the invasion.
Yeah.
Send all our troops there. All the troops went to England. When I went to England, we landed in the Liverpool airport there, the Liverpool port there.
Where you doing this? What country did you spend the most time in?
Huh?
What country did you spend the most time in? Like in Europe?
Most of it, well, we traveled so much.
Yeah.
Most of it was in Germany. Most of it, yeah.
What was your favorite place while you were out there? What was?
Well, see now, in France, when we were in France, we liberated the city of Verdun, the city of Reims. Reims was the capital of France. Then from there we liberated the city of Metz. That was the biggest fortress city in Europe. They had forts 5 stories deep into the ground. It was amazing. We liberated that city. It took a long time, but we had to get another division to help us out. We couldn't take it directly. We had to surround them and just keep going into the city little at a time. It took quite a while.
Did you see combat pretty much the whole time you were in Europe? Or?
Well, I was always in combat.
It was always
Every day. And when you're in combat, you're in constant contact with the enemy, 24 hours a day during World War II in Europe. 24 hours a day. You couldn't go walking around, they'd be shooting shells at us all the time. Of course, we would shell them too, but it was tough because you couldn't walk around too much. At nighttime, you couldn't go traveling. Everything was pitch dark, no lights, nothing. It was pitch dark. And if you wanted to smoke a cigarette, you had to put something over your head so they wouldn't see the light, cigarette light. If you didn't do that, they would throw shells in to where you was. So you couldn't do it. And you couldn't walk around at nighttime. They made a lot of mistakes World War II also. We got a lot of short rounds from the artillery. The Air Corps bombed quite a few of our people.
Oh, there's a lot of friendly fire going on?
They bombed a lot of them. Oh. See, but those are things that happen in combat. There's a lot of confusion. My lieutenant got killed by our own men. My own man. He thought he was a German. We were in the woods, you know.
Did your unit have a lot of casualties?
Oh, he had a lot of casualties. Oh, hundreds of casualties. Oh. But in combat, you're trained to kill, especially if you're in the infantry. But in combat is the main thing. If you're in the infantry, you're going to get wounded. You're trained to get wounded or killed. Always hoping that the war would end and that you won't have to get wounded or killed. Some guys, there was one guy in my company, I don't want to say him, shot himself in the foot to get out of it. Everybody was, if you got wounded, you hoped to $1 million wound so that once they took you back, you wouldn't have to come back into combat no more. But in World War II, if you got wounded, as soon as they felt that you was able to get around again, they shipped you back into combat again, which was very bad. When the Vietnam War came out, after you served 6 months in the front in combat duty, they took you out of combat, and that was it. Never went up to no more because your mind, it affected your mind and your nerves so bad, being in combat for an extended time while you was over there.
Did you do anything for like good luck to like, help you keep going while you were in combat? Did you have any like, rituals you do for like good luck or anything to reassure you while you were out there?
Say that again?
Did you do anything for like good luck? Like, do you have any like special like objects or anything that you use for like good luck when you were in combat? No, you just.
No, you see, over there in your combat, you didn't eat good. You slept in the rain. One day in northern France, it rained for 7 days. We were right in the rain, we didn't even change our clothes. I never took a shower in a year's time. Couldn't do it. We had to give us louse powder, because it gets lice on you. You put it on you and it kills it. In combat is different, you never got hot meals.
Yeah.
Because the artillery, once a truck came into the combat area zone, they would knock it out with the artillery. The Germans had us zeroed in all the time, because we were in enemy territory, which was very bad. The ones in the rear are all right. They kept us going. We were supposed to get, we see a Cracker Jack box, that was a meal. A can of baked beans, some crackers, that was a meal too. But they loaded us up so much when we used to walk. Everything was heavy. We trained hard all the time. It was in good shape, but still it was very, very tough because everything was so heavy. When we first went in, we had a gas mask. They figured we were going to use gas. After about a month's time, we threw it away because we just took the chance that they said that we were going to use it. Okay. So that was a big help too.
Do you ever go on leave during when you were?
No, we never went on leave. No.
You never got to go on leave once, or?
Huh?
You never got to go on leave during
No,
your time?
no. In combat, as long as the war was on, you never went on leave. You just stood there. They needed you. During the Battle of the Bulge, they broke to our lines, all the armored division. We were in another part of Germany, our army. We're in Saarland, Germany. When Patton got the call that the Germans broke through, that his whole army had to go push him back, capture him back, push him back. So for 48 hours we got on trucks, and we went towards the Battle of the Luxembourg and then Belgium. And we took off, my company, we took off on the attack on Christmas Day. They put us in a barn, they give us a good meal, hot meal, and we took off. And after that, never seen a hot meal no more, till the Battle of the Bulge was over. Then from there, we crossed the Rhine River. In that sector, 5th Infantry Division was the first ones to cross that Rhine River in that sector. Then from there, we went all the way to Austria, into Czechoslovakia. And that day, on May the 8th, the war was over, but we didn't know the war was over. We were still on the attack, May the 8th. Quite a few of our boys got killed. Because we were going up in the mountains in Czechoslovakia to capture these SS troopers. The war was over, we didn't get the word till midnight that day, that war was over. And then we heard that the war was over, so we had no more casualties. Okay? That was in Czechoslovakia. Czechoslovakia, the Germans had all slave labor. They went to all these countries that they took. They took all the civilians, broke all the families up, young kids, young children, 10, 4 years old, 5 years old, took them away from their parents, brought the parents to Germany for slave labor. They brought them to France. Once they occupied France, they brought them over to France from all different countries. That kept a lot of the production up through the slave labor until the war ended. Right? We liberated, in Europe, there ain't many big cities. We liberated town after town, little towns, 15,000, 20,000. And they had all slave labor in, right? Which we were surprised. They had so much slave labor, all the way to Czechoslovakia, all slave labor. Every town they took, they brought civilians to go do the work for them. And it was sad because all the families were all broken up. Some of them didn't know, they never got to see their parents. The Germans, they were very bad. If you got sick, they'd shoot you. You fell down there on the way, you're sick, they didn't give you no medical help. You stood there. If you yelled a little bit, they'd shoot you. Battle of the Bulge, they captured 150 men in my division. They didn't want to take them prisoners. Picked the machine gun and mowed them right down. 150 American soldiers in my division. They were bad. The SS troopers and the Nazis that ran everything, they were very bad. The concentration camp, you heard all about the concentration camps they had. Well, they killed them all. Jews, they went mostly after the Jews in the concentration camps. But they put other people too in there, but 100% Jews. Just went to each town, every town they break up the Jewish family, took them to these concentration camps. Never seen their parents no more. So we had the honor of liberating one concentration camp. It was sad because first day we went on the attack, we were making a river crossing, Moselle River. 500 in my battalion, they all got killed that night. It was a night crossing. They all got killed. Before we went into battle, the priest come over and says, all right, this is your Holy Communion. Just bless you, that was it. Now, that was the first time I went in combat. It was all right. We start going. All of a sudden, your friends in front of you get wounded. They're shooting at us, of course, you know. But that never happened in basic training where you got killed. In combat, you got killed or wounded. It was entirely different. That was a real war. Basic training, if you're in combat or infantry or in combat, you didn't die. But over there, it was sad, because everybody's young. 19, 20, 21. During the Battle of the Bulge, they had no more infantrymen. So they sent over to the United States. They were flying, some of these kids who just got training, 17 weeks, flying them all over to the Battle of the Bulge in Luxembourg and in Belgium. They had no more combat infantrymen. They're flying them right over. Some of them joined my company. I said, how you doing? We said, I just had Christmas, and this was about 2 weeks after Christmas. I had Christmas in New York with the outfit he was in. It was some part of the Air Corps. He was in the infantry, though. I mean, in combat, that's where you lose all your men. World War II, we had a lot of people in the service. We had over 18 million men and women in the service, World War II. 19, and Hitler was very bad. Him and his aides were very bad. Killing didn't mean nothing. The Japanese, they're all fanatics. They never gave up. My boyfriend was with Malzone, you know, the one that got the Medal of Honor. On Columbus Avenue, where he lived. One of the kids, one of the fellas, he was in the Marines 3 years, and he went to the Pacific, 1st Marine Division. So they were the first Marines to go over into combat in the Pacific. Chaps, they used to be doped up and bonsai attack. All they did was make big waves of men coming right at you. So my friend of mine, the boyfriend of mine says, there was a lot of confusion. Malzone says, all right, man, can we get my machine gun ready? He killed 400 right off the hop. He got all the men, he was yelling at them, the Marines telling them what to do. When they went to the Pacific at nighttime, they used to send men out on patrols. And patrols, if one of them came back alive, it was amazing. The men that got caught in the patrols, see, they go on patrols, they go out for scouts. I go checking in to see what's ahead of you. And the Japanese, when they used to get a Marine or a soldier, they chop them all up and put them in the trees. So now, when you walk in that territory, you see a lot of these servicemen that went on patrol, all hung up on the trees, all chopped up. They want to discourage you too. Of course, that made you get madder, but it would shake you up.
Did you make any really close friends that stuck with you the whole time you were in combat, or did you try and not get too attached to people?
Well, say that again.
Like when you were in your combat tour, did you have any close friends that were with you the whole time, or did you try and not get too attached to?
Oh no, you know what? You're close with them all the time.
Yeah.
See, but there's a big turnover, Mike. Every time so many men get wounded, they bring in new men to try to keep you up to strength. So a lot of times you have new friends, and new friends very often, because they get wounded. And once you got wounded in World War II, they had nobody to pick up the wounded. 75% of them would die. You got wounded, you just lay there. They had no helicopters and nothing to pick you up. They didn't have enough medics to pick you up. And the medics that were there were under fire. What could they do? All they do is give you a shot of morphine and that was it. They'd be yelling. A lot of them didn't even have morphine. Just stood there, you died. Then they learned, later on the helicopters would come down and pick up a lot of wounded servicemen. World War II, they didn't have that going for them. That luxury of helicopters.
Did you have any close friends that were weren't wounded the whole time like you, or that were with you the whole time, or?
Yeah, there was a couple of them that stood with me. Yeah, but most of them died though, not wounded.
Yeah.
There was only a couple that we lived through it, which is very rare.
Yeah.
Of course, if we made that invasion, Japan, we wouldn't have been around. I figured a million casualties. And war was very bad, just like the war now. It's sad because all these Muslims, they're all fanatics. And they throw a lot of street bombs. You don't know who the enemy is. So what happens? So now you're walking, all of a sudden, a kid or a woman might be near you. You don't know whether they're going to drop a street bomb. So that shakes you up all the time. Sometimes somebody from amongst the crowd might shoot at you. What could you do? So you try to shoot them back. They say you're killing civilians. World War II, you're at war. They would kill everybody. World War II, they wouldn't be none of this stuff going on. Street bombs. World War II, they would mop them all up. Hitler. And when they captured a town, they would set a curfew. If one of them men, his men got killed, he would kill about 200 civilians. If another soldier got killed, another 500 civilians. He would load them right down. You would think twice before you kill another German soldier.
Yeah.
That's the way it should be over there too. Set a curfew, don't make nobody walk around nighttime. I had an uncle in Italy, okay? My mother's brother. Now, the Germans captured the town, they didn't capture, they took it over. They set a curfew up. Him and his two friends, they both broke the curfew. What do you think the Germans did? Made them dig a hole, shot them and just covered them up. And they were allies. Italy was an ally. When we liberated a lot of these towns, they had a lot of Italians, slave labor. They were an ally of Germany. It was hard to believe. Right? I used to talk Italian to them. Like, they had Polish slave labor, they had Russians, they had French. So the soldiers, in them days, their parents were all foreigners anyway. So they all knew how to, some knew how to speak Polish. The guy, my boyfriend at the time was Russian. So he spoke Russian. We would ask him, how strong are the enemy a little further up? We would speak to him, see? And once we got out of there, if the owners of this, that with the bosses of the slave labor, if they treated them mean, boy, they went right after them. We didn't stop them. We were in town, they used to come, liberate them, they go right up and beat the hell out of the ones that treated them real mean. Especially the Russians. Russian guys used to beat the hell out of the people that they worked for, because they were treated very mean. Yeah. Right? There were some good Germans, but they figured they were going to win the war. We used to say, "Are you a Nazi?" One of the towns, yeah. "Oh, not me, not a Nazi." But they had to say that. They had these SS troopers, very bad. All they did was they had their own German civilians that scared of them. If the civilians went out of line, they would shoot them too. They were fanatics. They had the Italians had the fascists. There was something like that, the same line as the SS troopers. They were very bad. We were going over one time, like in my squad, we were pinned down one day. We couldn't go into town because they had two big German tanks. They had everything closed up, you know. So we knew we had a tough time getting in there. We couldn't knock out these tanks. So we were pinned down. And we called for airplane help to bomb them, you know. And of course some tanks too. Now, we were pinned down, so we had our mortar over here. We were pinned down. We had the mortar gun there, and we were down behind a little hill, about 10 feet high, about where you are, Mike. So we're over there. Then the observer called in for fire order. So the guy that threw the shells in, the mortar shells, and the guy that for the distance, they said it was a sergeant and a corporal. They said, "All right, you guys stay there. Don't come 3 yards away. Stay there." So they went to cover the firing order. our tanks was going by. But 10 yards away from us was on this little hill, you know. His machine gun was facing us, facing where our gun was. Oh, of course, there's always around in the chambers, you know, and then, you know, around the machine guns are, and your gun is always loaded. So the gun was facing where our gunners were, our 2 men on the mortars were. What happened? The guy in the tank happened to hit the trigger, and a big burst of machine gun hit the 2 guys in my squad. Got killed instantly. He didn't know he did it. That guy didn't know. He never should have had the gun pointed towards us. There's a lot of boo-boos, a lot of mistakes. So they got killed in action. Imagine that. We're 3 yards away. It was sad because our own men killed them. A lot of confusion in combat. A lot of accidents happen. Now them 2 guys, they come from the Midwest. One was a sergeant, one was a corporal. All in all, war is very, very bad. So called for, which men today, some of these leaders, they cause these wars. Like the terrorists, you know. The terrorists, if this was World War II, they would have cleaned Iraq right up. There would be no guys getting killed now. But the past year, there would be nobody be shooting at them. They'd wipe them right down. Blow half the town up. There won't be no terrorists shooting at you no more. But they would clean up, blow the other half of the town down. And we can't do it because we're killing civilians. Bring that up. It's sad. And some of the, politically, the Democrats in this country, they knock our country down all the time. It's sad.
Do you have any questions?
What else you want to ask, Michael?
What did you guys used to do to entertain yourselves, like when you weren't, did you ever have any time to yourselves?
Oh yeah, in basic training, yeah.
Yeah, what do you guys used to?
Basic training is different. But if you're in combat, you're always on the alert for the Germans. They would counterattack. That was their specialty. In other words, if we took a town, later on you had to prepare, stay on the alert, that they would counterattack. So that's why you couldn't have too much time in combat to yourselves. You're always on the alert. The infantry, you were stuck, you couldn't go no place. You're always worried, you gotta stay on the field. When we were in France, we used to capture a town or city, we couldn't go in the houses because it was an Allied house. We couldn't go in. They wouldn't let us go in. You gotta stay on the field. But once we got to Germany, we could do everything we want. But in France, we couldn't go in the houses, Mike. Because that was the rule that they set up. You gotta stay on the field all the time. Couldn't go in the house. And you had to, living conditions were very bad. That's the way it is when you're in combat. Nothing you could do. You put up with it, but the living conditions are very horrible. So you don't change your clothes that much. Once in a while, a cheaper come in, give you some new clothing. And being in the infantry, you had to stay on the field all the time, especially in France. The other countries are different. And everybody's young. 19, 20, 30 years old, 25. You're in good shape. You had to be. If you wasn't in good shape, it made it a little harder for yourself. Like my friend, he was a Russian kid. He wasn't that athletic, It was always hard for him. Couldn't walk too far, He got wounded on a night attack. We used to go on night attacks too once in a while. You couldn't see your hand in front of you. They had a little pin light, like a little cigarette light, a pin light. There was a little bulb light. And that's how you moved. Everything was in the dark. Then they gave us some pills. We had water, the little canteen. If you ran out of water, you had no place to get water, you took it out of the brook, filled it up with the little cup, canteen cup, and you put the pill in so you wouldn't get typhoid fever. I did that a few times. I had no water. In training, we trained down in Florida, Camp Land, Florida. They used to give you a thing of water. They had to stay all day long without using that canteen to water up. They trained you to be without water. But they'd give you the pill anyway, once you. They trained you good. Oh, they really trained you. I don't know, no fooling around and training. You got on the line, they made you work. You had the barrack, they made you just stay out in the barrack 10 to 11, 12 o'clock. And you had to get up 6 o'clock in the morning. But the infantry in combat is tough. If you're a tank bed or whatever. But the infantry is the toughest. Because everything's on the ground. And you had to go on patrol. And combat, you never change your clothing. At least in the States you did. That's the difference. Being in the States and overseas.
Were you able to stay in touch with your family at all? Or like in the war? No letters or anything?
No, not overseas, no. Overseas you were supposed to get letters, but we never got them because we're always on the move all the time.
No.
If you were stationed in one place, a lot of them guys were stationed in cities or towns for a certain length of time, they did get them, yeah. So Mike, don't join the Marines. World War II, 3 of my boyfriends, they all played Fieldhouse High School, Michelle, basketball. They made the Iwo Jima invasion. It lasted long. They all got killed. When they made the invasion of Iwo Jima, it lasted 1 week's time, a week and a half. Almost 6,000 killed. Not wounded, killed. And when they made the invasion in Europe, in 10 days, they lost 40,000 men in 14 days. 40,000. World War II, the death was very common. Over in Europe, it's bad. Japan, the same thing. Anytime you made the invasion, you lose most of your men. When you make an invasion, they load you up with a lot of stuff. A lot of them drown before they get to the shore. Not a lot of them, a few drown. Because you're packed up, 70, 80 pounds on your back. It's tough. And then once you hit shore, if you get by, it's hard to get going. You got a lot of weight on you. You're in good shape, a good thing. Because you can't go too far. Of course, you're young. When you're young, Mike, like your age, your body could take a lot. You get to be in, as years go by, I shrunk 3 inches since World War II. Body got old. Auntie Blanche told me the same thing. How come I shrunk 1.5 inches? We shrink. You never think it's going to happen to you. That's why when you're young, Mike, take advantage of your good young life. Always, as long as you don't get on drugs. Get on drugs, you're in bad shape. You'll change your whole life. Mike, there's a guy across the street from me, okay, he's on drugs. What's it about? 5 years ago, gave himself a shot in the neck. He died on drugs. He used to take the high stuff, give himself a needle. He was about 6 feet 2, strong as a mouse. On drugs, that's it.
Did you, were you part of Normandy, or did you come in after that, or?
Well, right after the invasion. Right after.
Do you remember, like, when your service ended? How'd you feel? How'd you feel like when you were done with, like, being in service?
From the service?
Yeah.
Well, you felt very good.
Okay.
Mike, when the war ended, you couldn't walk in any place. Everybody's hugging each other all over the country because everybody had somebody in the service. You know, them days then, we had blackouts in this country, you know. Everybody was so happy. Everybody was hugging each other. Oh, singing and dancing. Mike, if you ever seen how friendly everybody was in World War II, as soon as it ended, no matter where you walked, they'd hug you. Just kissing each other. Because they all had somebody in the service. How they felt when the war ended. Oh, everybody sing. The cities, the town, everybody, they stood up all day and night, just singing and everything. I think everybody had somebody in the service. Now, that's another thing you gotta put down. World War II was a freedom war. Was a war for freedom. If we didn't win that war, would have been no freedom today. We wouldn't have been here. Would have been Germany, Japan, and Italy. They would have been no America. So that was a freedom war. Remember that. We had to win that war. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. Always put that at the end. Put that in all the time. It's a freedom war. Fight for freedom. That's why they can sing that song, "Freedom of the United States." You know, that song.
Did
We
you have
didn't win that war.
Did you have any brothers that were in the war?
We had 5 brothers.
5 brothers in the war?
4 brothers besides me. We're all in. But they weren't in only one was in combat. Uncle Carl was in the Seabees, but he never went into combat though. Me and Nicky were in combat.
He was in Europe as well?
Yeah, he was in Europe, yeah.
Did you, once you're done with the war, you went to work, right? You can go back to school. You went to work and,
I had to go to work.
Yeah, you were-
I was working, they took me off my job.
yeah.
See, when they drafted, no matter what you was doing, they took you. Once you reached state D, like I told you, up in the pad, because he stood back here, he was 17 years old when he was in the fourth year high school. They took him right out. Brought him in there, and put him in the infantry. So, but he was lucky, he was training in the infantry, the war ended. And then they put him in the Air Corps. He was training for it. He had infantry training. As infantry, you was all the men in the infantry. 80% of the people that you lose in combat are infantrymen. Because you gotta go take the houses, the streets, and you're always in enemy territory. So the infantry, you're back. See, the Marines, they got infantry, then you got artillerymen, just like the Army has.
Yeah.
The Army's got the same thing. If you're a Marine infantryman, they say Marine, but you're in the infantry. If you're in the infantry, it's different. If you're in the division headquarters, you're further back, like. But infantry is very bad. Like you lose your legs, you hit, you get blind, you know. Like there's quite a few guys in my company, they lost their legs, their arms. But they got out of combat, they lived, but you know, they're crippled for life. Well, you know, they couldn't get around too much. So being World War II was a freedom war. I always emphasize that, because a lot of these people don't realize that, especially the young people. They don't realize it was a freedom war. If we ever lost that war, we would have lost it if it wasn't for the United States. We supplied all our allies. Russia and England. We had everything, plus the manpower. We had thousands of airplanes. We lost thousands of airplanes too and got knocked down. We lost 34,000 airplanes. Imagine that.
34,000?
Yeah. 33,000, I think it was. All right? But them airplanes, Mike, when they used to throw them bombs, Mike, a 500-pound bomb, Mike, you could feel here in Bridgeport, almost, not that far. They threw a $10,000 bomb, you could feel the vibration, like Bridgeport. It make a hole. See this house? Bigger than this house, Mike. Hole. They threw a 10,000-pound bomb, deep. Knock it all down. Them B-29s used to carry 50 bombs on them. 50. Every mission they went to. 50 bombs. If they had, say, 10 29s bombers, so 50 bombs at the city of Connecticut, they would knock everything down. Oh, them bombs. And then they did a lot of strafing. We had a good air corps. Our pilots were very good. And then our airplanes were good. But we had a lot of men in the service. I told you, in the service between men and women, over 18 million. I might say, specify that. Over 18 million. Today, you know what much we got in the service? Nothing. We got nobody. You know why? They don't draft. Drafting was everything, Mike.
What are the, some of the battles, like the Battle of the Bulge?
Yeah.
How do you-
We were in, I was in backup battle stars for northern France,
Mhm.
Central Europe, Ardennes, and the Rhineland. The most I could have got was 5 battle stars. I got 4 in them sectors. Northern France, Central Europe, Ardennes, and the Rhineland.
And then you were called in to reinforce the area?
We're gonna make the invasion. They sent us back. Well, I would have been there at least another year better, Mike. We're training to make the invasion. They sent me to Campbell, Kentucky. Those were all their paratroopers, 102nd,
So they were
82nd Airborne
training
Division.
you in paratrooping? Or you're gonna make it into a parachute?
Well, I wasn't trained for that, but see, they would have made the invasion, jumping, through the air.
Yeah.
Of course, we're on the infantry, we move ahead, we would have invaded by land. say. Paratroopers, they sent them in behind the lines to disrupt a lot of things, so you could make an invasion. That's what happened when they, June the 6th, the invasion of Europe. A lot of paratroopers came in. They did that. But most of them get killed. It's tough. You come from the airplane. Good thing, they don't make many jumps, because you wouldn't have nobody left. I mean, you lose too many men at once, too often. You can't have too many men. Can't make too many jumps. You had to land behind enemy lines. And you hit the ground, you got something. They shoot you coming down if they know you coming. Paratroopers tough. Okay, but they don't make, they don't see that much action, which is, they can't.
What was the thing that you remember properly? What part of the war do you remember the most vividly?
Well,
Was there a particular battle or
Well,
particular? crossing the
Battle
Rhine.
of the Bulge was one, and then when we made the Rhineland,
Rhine.
they
Crossing.
counterattacked us, yeah. We won the first ones. We crossed the Rhineland with boats, like, you know, them invasion boats? We crossed with them. But then after we crossed, they were strafing us, Mike. Oh, there was a lot of confusion. And they made us go in all right, but then they counterattacked. Captured quite a few of our men too. In my platoon, they captured 2 machine gunners, another guy was an ammunition bearer. Well, the Germans captured them at that time, you know, made after the invasion, after the Rhineland. But one of them, he was a stowaway from Germany, and he spoke only German, you know. But he could just about speak English. So he joined the American Army. When they captured him and his boyfriends, two other 2 guys, he told the Germans, he said, look, why don't you free me? No shooters. See, Mike, if they catch only a few guys, they don't take you prisoners, they shoot you. I mean, the more men get captured, the more chance you had of living. Otherwise, they shoot you. They capture a few guys, they don't want to carry them, they shoot you. So he told me, he said, look, we go to the next town, a few yards away. If there are Americans in there, I'll say that we captured you, you know, they won't shoot you, you know. But if there's Germans there, then you captured us, so you won't shoot us. He told me they were going to shoot him. Him and his other 2 guys. But he's strictly German. If you ever heard him talk, you'd figure he's German, you know. Hey. So they were lucky. The next time we went to, there were Americans. So they didn't get captured. But they captured quite a few guys. Not quite a few men in our squad, in our division, in our platoon. And we crossed the Rhine River.
You were, what'd you do in your platoon? What was your specialty in your platoon?
Well, now, you know, our specialty was the machine guns and the mortars. But we always had the M1 with us, the rifle. You need that. Always around in the chamber, you know. But you know how to shoot everything, though. In training, they don't know how to shoot. Well, you got the grenades, which anyway, you know. Bazooka, you know. Well, everything that's shot, you had to train in the infantry. But most of the machine guns, then they used to blindfold us. We tried to put the M1 together, take it all apart, blindfold it, same with the machine gun and the motors. But the machine gun is the main one, blindfolded. Because sometimes you get stuck, you know.
What about after the war? Did you keep in touch with your the people in your?
Well, they used to have a reunion, but I never went. You know why? I had no money, Mike. I had no money. My family was big, you know. I don't know. I could have went later on in years. Now, the division I was in come from the Midwest. So they used to have a reunion, you know. I got older, like basic training in the Army. I got all their names and pictures. I got a big picture like this. They're in basic training, all where they lived, you know. And then when we were leaving France, we were leaving Czechoslovakia, took the names of some of the guys, their addresses, put them in my pocket, you know. Most of them from the Midwest. But what's sad is, I mean, everybody gets killed or wounded, right? Everybody's young. For these big rulers, they don't go to war. They don't know what the hell it's all about. Well, we went to war in 9/11 now. They all gave Bush the consent to go to war because of the terrorists. Now they're backing down, you know, because of all these car bombs, street bombs, and they ain't giving up. Right? When you get up in age, don't join the service. That's all I got to tell you.
Thanks.
Stay